So I have to be honest here. I'm sure the title of the video probably threw you for a bit of a loop. You're probably thinking that I have lost my mind, lost my britches somewhere. Perhaps I have. Or perhaps we're not listening to these people as much as we should. That is what I believe. I've been listening to lots of incels lately, and honestly, I have to say, a lot of the times, they're not wrong. I mean, seriously, I know, perhaps a more accurate video would be Incels Are Right sometimes, but that's not clickbaity enough, so we're stuck with this one. But I do honestly think that sometimes these incels have a point with some of the things they say. I don't think they're right about everything. Maybe I don't even think they're right about maybe 50 or 60% of the things they say, but they are right about a lot of the things they complain about, and they have a reason to be upset, honestly and legitimately. And it really bothers me at the fact that people want to villainize other people who are already, I don't know, villains in their own eyes, or people who are sad and depressed in their own right. It is very interesting to me how Paul Joseph Watson could even make his video The Truth Behind Incels, when the real truth behind incels is that the vast majority of them are sad, depressed, suicidal men who would rather kill themselves than kill other people. But, you know, truth behind that is, again, it's just clickbaity fear-mongering, and Paul Joseph Watson just goes further and further away from God with each passing video upload. So, anyhow, that's only kind of part of what made me want to say this. Another part of what makes me want to say this is the fact that there's a lot of people who just seem to not be listening when these incels describe the problems that they have. A lot of people like to rather go on to like Reddit and read Reddit posts or go to the incel forum, but I actually would rather like listen to the incels talk than like read these anonymous posts. And I think the reason why is because, I mean, when you can like see the emotion behind what someone is saying, it seems to be more meaningful, at least to me. It seems to be more genuine, at least to me. Unless these guys are like some really great actors and they need to like do something with their acting talents. Seeing an incel voice his opinion rather than reading the most extreme random crap on whatever forum post that day, I think holds a lot more weight to me, because like I know when someone attaches their face to it, man, like you can't really divorce it at that point. Like, your opinion is your opinion, man. Right? So that's why I'd rather listen to them on YouTube or like listen to them wherever I can find them rather than read a bunch of bullshit, because excuse me, I know the extreme incels are there, but extreme people exist in all regards, and you're not really going to find the truth within the myth if you're only reading the myth. Yeah, are there a bunch of meaty-head incels? Yeah. Are there a bunch of shitty incels that probably shouldn't be in relationships? Yeah, but I don't really need 150,000 videos on YouTube to tell me to come to that conclusion, and I don't need any video broadcasts to really come out and tell me that, hey, incels are terrorists now and we should be afraid of them. I think, honestly, we need to analyze what these people are saying and separate what is right and what isn't. And I do think that incels are right sometimes. I'm going to go over a couple of things I think they're right about. Before I get on to the things I think they're right about, let's actually chat about some of the things that I think they're wrong about, so you guys know that I do indeed think critically about the stuff I'm listening to. For example, one thing I was thinking about the other day, I was at work and I was listening to one of these incels talk. What is his name? His name on YouTube is Face and LMS. For those of you who don't know what the initials of LMS means, it means looks, money, status. Although money and status are kind of interchangeable with one another, so it's a bit redundant to say money. Like, you're not going to find very many homeless people with lots of status, you know. So, but I guess I'm being really pedantic there. The point is, his video catalog consists of him talking about how being attractive is probably a hell of a lot more important to women in attraction than any other factor. And he shows lots of different video clips and lots of different evidence suggesting to this point. And honestly, he is right about a lot of the things that he's saying, and I'll go over some of the things I think he's right about, but I want to go over something I think he's wrong about, something that it was just more philosophical than it is, you know, factual. But there's this idea that comes up in this video over and over and over again, and that is the arrogance of some women believing that they deserve a man that's higher than their, say, looks level. Looks level being, I guess, if a woman is average looking or fat or whatever, then she should date a man who is average looking and fat. But I honestly don't think that this is a very reasonable thing at all. I could go into lots of detail about it, but I won't. I can summarize my opinion like this. Being attractive only really means that people want to have sex with you. It's not an indication of, it's not even an indication or an indication of how you feel about yourself. It just means that people want to have sex with you. It begins and ends there. It's not lost on me that you get lots of things for being attractive. Like, I know, but when it all comes down to it, being attractive doesn't mean you're a nicer person, doesn't mean you're a smarter person, doesn't mean you're a wiser person. It just means people want to have sex with you. So assuming that someone should date someone who is equal to their looks, which even then isn't really, shouldn't be taken seriously considering the fact that men and women are different, and what makes a man attractive is different from what makes a woman attractive. So it's kind of hard to put a balancing on that. Anyhow, ignoring that, again, being attractive doesn't say anything about the person. So even if a woman thinks that she should be with a man that is really beautiful or 10 out of 10, whatever bullshit people say, or a Chad or whatever, and even though she's fat, I mean, sure, it looks remarkably silly that she should be with someone that puts a great degree of care into his body, say working out and trying to look good when she doesn't, but at the same time, it still says nothing for his character as a father. It says nothing about his character as being a good husband, or I guess boyfriend before he becomes a husband. So even if she thinks that she deserves a guy that looks really good, I mean, it's still her prerogative. I mean, granted, we all find it silly that someone fat would want someone that's good looking, but at the same time, I mean, what difference does it really make to their character as people? We don't know them as people, and being attractive, it doesn't mean that you're confident. It just means people want to have sex with you. And shoot, there's lots of people who actually are beautiful, especially of the female variety, who hate the way they look. I mean, shoot, there are women that need constant validation for the way they look all of the time, constantly, like day after day. I mean, just look at Instagram, look on Twitter, any social media platform, Reddit. You'll find so many women just thirsty for attention, despite the fact that people constantly tell them that they're beautiful. Being attractive doesn't mean that you're confident. It means people want to have sex with you. And again, that's just one reason why I find the whole looks level thing to be quite silly, but that's a tangent. I just want to see, the point of me saying this is say, look, I put some thought into what I think is right coming from incels and what I think is wrong coming from incels. So let's start off with probably one of the most obvious things I think incels are right about. They might be wrong about the scope, but they're right about this, and that is the fact that I'm gonna have to say this because I have personal experience with it, my friends, and that is, some women date shitty people, and interestingly enough, these shitty people will be defended for whatever reason. Maybe because they're good looking or whatever, but the incels will be besmirched for the fact that he's not sexually attractive for women. This is a reality that I see constantly, day in and day out, especially if you go on like brain cells, or if you just kind of go anywhere on the internet. It's really, really hilarious to me that lots of people despise the fact that an incel, or, the so-called nice guy, or any man in particular, will acknowledge or say that women date bad boys. Now, I mean, the general scope might be too much. Saying women date assholes might be too much and not fair to the women that don't. But, I mean, the fact remains, man, a lot of young ladies do. A lot of young ladies do pick thug, like black women, they pick thug gangster type niggas to date. They do. If you deny this reality, you must have never seen a woman in your fucking life. If you can look at the fact that an incel, or any man for that matter, would look at the fact that there are some women who date terrible individuals, I don't know where you've been, bro. Have you been on fucking Thundera, nigga? Where have you been in reality? I mean, did you go to the dark dimension from Doctor Strange? You can't deny. I mean, you can, but again, I must ask, where in the multiverse have you been to say that these niggas aren't right about the fact that some women will date shitty individuals and will bring forth progeny from these shitty relationships? They do. Now, I mean, I've seen people constantly be upset or besmirch these incels for saying that girls like bad boys as long as they're beautiful and attractive or whatever. I mean, can you really dispute that? I mean, you can, but it would be silly if you did. And considering the fact that, again, I mean, even I have two stories I could tell. I won't tell for time, but maybe one day I might make 2 whole videos about this where I can literally tell you guys stories of how when I was younger, I considered myself to be a nice guy. When I say nice guy, I don't mean nice as in like my only quality was the fact that I was nice, because nobody who uses the English language uses nice guy to imply that their only good quality is the fact that they're nice. If you think that that's what they mean, English might be your second language. You could not have grown up speaking this fucking language if you think that's what they mean. Either that or you're really stupid. Because nice guy is a catch-all term to imply that they think that the individual who uses it thinks that they are trustworthy, loyal, and above all, kind-hearted. They think that they're a good person to be with. They're a nice guy. That's what it means. It's not that being kind is their only quality. And if you come to that conclusion, you have to legitimately be stupid or purposefully obtuse. Anyhow, the point that I'm making is I considered myself to be one of those brands of guys. And I genuinely cared very deeply for the ladies I tried to date. And I actually was very far from mean to them or, treated them badly or poorly at all. I got friend-zoned a lot. Well, one girl I got friend-zoned. The other girl, again, I could go into detail maybe some other time. But the fact remains, these girls were given a choice to pick me or pick some other guy who was either into drugs or was just a shitty individual, and they picked a shitty individual. Hell, case in point, the one girl I'm thinking of in my mind picked the one guy straight up over me, given the decision to stay with me or to go with him. She picks the guy. I can tell you something really funny about that girl in particular, and the guy, which I think is actually kind of hilarious. Not only did the guy end up cheating on her, like, a lot, he actually ended up cheating on her with a girl in my Spanish class. Like this is some real nigga shit. This is some true nigga shit right here, right? I literally sat next to the girl he was cheating on his girlfriend with every day in Spanish class. This shit was bonkers. It's hilarious. At least in hindsight, I can say it's hilarious, But the point being, dear viewer, is the fact that this shit is true. It happens. Another thing I do find incels being corrected about, or at least I can understand why they would feel a particular way, is the fact that they feel like they're ugly, like they're really bad-looking people, and that your physical looks and attractiveness mostly determines how a woman is going to view and see you. Here's the thing. They're not entirely wrong. They're not wrong at all, actually. I mean, maybe it might be the scope. Maybe it might be you can find some areas, you can find some examples of some women who are with guys that you might personally think is ugly. Genuinely speaking, I honestly think that women are incredibly shallow creatures, especially younger women. So I lean more towards these guys having a really good point here. I don't think it's fair for people to tell them that they just need to work on their personality and it's gonna get better for them when they look like a fucking gremlin. One of the biggest issues that a lot of these incels have is the fact that they think that they're very ugly. And I don't know if they're suffering from body dysmorphia, because a lot of them I read on the Reddit posts, but the ones that I see on YouTube. Now, here's the thing. I'm not gay, so I can't really claim whether or not these niggas are attractive or not attractive, because, I mean, I'm not homosexual. So, I mean, I can pattern recognize, I can, see or recognize patterns of what most women find attractive and claim whether a nigga looks good or not, but my opinion on whether a nigga looks good or not means shit, because I'm not trying to have sex with them. So, when I say this, I mean, it means as much as a grain of salt. Some of these guys, they aren't really terrible looking guys, I don't think. And other guys, I can completely understand why they would view themselves as ugly, and could even see why they would refer to themselves as gremlins, especially if they're short and really ugly and just kind of weird looking. They don't really call themselves gremlins, but I mean, sometimes I call some of these guys gremlins because they look like gremlins. It's kind of mean, but I mean, anyhow, that's their issue. Their issue is the fact that they think that they're ugly, and they don't think that any amount of confidence or any amount of personality really matters when they look as ugly as they do. And the truth of the matter is, for a lot of women, they are correct about this. A lot of women are really up their own asses about status, and only want to be with men that they find to be incredibly attractive. And no amount of personality is going to overcome the fact that they are some strange looking individuals, or they think that they're some ugly looking guys. That being said, though, I don't think that it is their destiny to be alone forever due to the fact that they look really strange or they think that they look ugly, mostly because of how a lot of women operate. And the truth of the matter is, a lot of people don't know, because no one taught them this, but women are individuals who are mostly guided by their emotions and their feelings more so than they're guided by a logical, rational thought. If you can get a woman to like feel emotions and like give her a bunch of stimuli, you can get her to attach to you and like have a functioning relationship with her. Actually, the whole thing about functional relationships, that's a whole topic I can dissect on its own. So again, I don't think that these guys are doomed to be alone forever because of the nature of how women work, and they are walking balls of nervous systems and reactions. So I mean, I think it's possible for them to find some woman to date and be with. However, be as it may though, I mean, they're not wrong to say that there are some shallow women that will not touch them with a 39.5-inch pole because they're ugly. And honestly, saying that the reason why they're so lonely is because they have have a bad personality, I think is ridiculously stupid, considering the fact that, one, if they're hardly interacting with anyone, no one would know that they are a misogynist. No one would know that they harbor these feelings because they don't interact with anyone. More than that, you can be an incredibly mean or rude person on the internet and just have this facade of being kind and nice to everyone you meet and never enter a problem at all. I mean, the only way you know that these incels are so misogynistic and angry is because they are anonymously posting on all these different forums. But if you met one in reality, you wouldn't know, especially if he acted like a really nice person in front of you. So that is a really, really, really worthless criticism to have on these people, because you don't actually know how they interact with women or how they interact with regular people. Another common criticism or common piece of advice that's given to incels is they should groom themselves, which is a strange implication, implying that they don't, or that they don't have the intelligence to realize that that's like an important life skill to have, like in general. I mean, perhaps some of them might be really greasy looking guys, and perhaps some of them might just, have poor grooming skills, but I mean, like, I don't know, it's rather insulting, honestly, to lay this out as reasonable or sound advice. Another piece of advice that I think is even more silly, and I think really half thought all the way out, is you gotta have confidence, bro. You just need confidence. That seems remarkably stupid to me. In fact, I made an entire video about where confidence comes from and where it should truly stem from. The thing is, you can't tell someone to just wake up with some confidence, especially if the vast majority of their life has been L after L after L, or loss after loss after loss, or rejection after rejection after rejection. You can't randomly tell some incel on the internet that he needs to have confidence when his entire track record of dealing with women, or anyone for that matter, has been abhorrent. In fact, his track record would literally indicate the opposite of him having confidence, or he should have confidence, that he should feel content, or he should feel some competence in anything, because again, his repertoire is loss, 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 loss. I say repertoire, that's not, the track record would be a much better word. If he has tried to approach women and tried to date women, has been constantly rejected by them, it is really hard to come to the conclusion that you should feel confident about your ability to approach women based on the practical application of you failing constantly. It's remarkably stupid to say that to someone, and it completely misunderstands, or it shows that the individual saying you need to have confidence has a complete misunderstanding of what confidence really is. What a lot of these people are more accurately referring to, I believe, is they need to have some degree of self-esteem so they're not bothered by getting rejected, or some degree of self-worth so they realize that the opinions of some woman they just met really should matter, really should not be an indication of how they should feel about themselves, which they wouldn't be wrong about, by the way. However, the idea that you should wake up on a Tuesday afternoon with some confidence just because someone said you need that to go get laid is just really stupid and is worthless advice. You're not wrong in the fact that women enjoy men that have confidence, but confidence is something gained from having a skill or competence in something. It's not something you can summon from the air and sprinkle on yourself and then go out to approach women. If an incel looks like a bloody gremlin and hates the way he looks, I don't see why he would have any confidence in himself. So, more sound advice would be trying to indicate that he should cultivate some kind of skill rather than saying that he should just have confidence. And I think I'll end the video here, mostly for time. I don't want to be here all day. I want to end the video with this, because there's a lot more to say. There's a lot more things I think incels have a point about. But I don't think that constantly vilifying these people, especially considering how the vast majority of them already hate themselves to begin with, is really conducive to anything. And I don't think giving them half-baked advice or giving them lots of cliche soundbite clips of confidence and grooming yourself and blah 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 is going to help pull these people out of their rut. Or just simply telling them, hey, go spend money on some shrink or some therapist or blah blah, it's going to help them. Because one, it assumes that these are not adult men with some degree of intelligence and ability to think critically about the world, or some degree of being able to pattern recognize and think. A lot of these guys have already considered these options, and a lot of these guys feel like they either don't have the money or they don't think it's worth the time. It would make more sense to reasonably explain why so-called therapy or visiting a shrink would be worth their time rather than insulting them ad nauseum. I see a lot of people beating down incels, and I have to say, you don't look like a hero constantly besmirching these people. Like, I know it's really easy to be self-righteous and to be vindicated by their misogyny and the fact that they say mean things about women, but honestly, I might have to make a whole other video about this topic in general, but, I mean, yeah, I know, it's easy to feel good about the fact that incels are pieces of shit. It's easy to look at really bad incels and highlight them and say that they're bad and they're a problem and all that. But that's just all it is. Easy. If you genuinely want to solve this problem, if you genuinely want to help these people, you have to listen to them and think critically about what they're saying and try to actually address what's going on. Because nothing is going to get better with these men if you just keep giving them the SoundCloud bullshit ass advice that, I don't know, every dating coach ever has given out. You have to actually listen to them and see what their problems are and try to address that. So yes, incels are right. Sometimes. And in order to figure out when those times are right, you have to pay attention to them. So that being said, man, I just hope you guys got something out of today's video. And if you did, man, go ahead and click the like button. And shoot, go ahead and click that subscribe button. Comment in the comment box below. As always, you guys have yourselves a great day. And I'll see you cool cats soon. Adios.